Superman and Lois, ladies and gentlemen, we are back, baby. DC TV has returned, and it's your boy Icon with some DC TV, and we are talking about Superman and Lois. So, this particular episode, this is episode 10, Bizarros in Bizarro World. So, in our last episode, when we saw 30 Days and 30 Nights, it ended with Bizarro Jonathan Kent appearing on the real world, and he confronted Lois and he confronted Jonathan. Jordan. And then we also saw, it was 30 days since Superman had flown into the vortex. And within that time, Jordan was training with his grandfather to try to be a hero and take his place and blah, blah, blah. So now we actually get to find out what happened on Bizarro World. So on Bizarro World, now this was broken up into character chapters, which I thought was done very well. But I'm gonna try to talk about it in sequence just so we don't get confused. So basically, on Bizarro World, because again it's Bizarro World, where everything backwards, In the real world, Superman, he hides his identity. He's Clark Kent, and he's mild, and he's mannered, and, he goes around, protecting people and trying very much to not be in the public eye so he can protect his family. On Bizarro World, Superman is a celebrity. Everybody knows who he is. They know who his family is. They know his kids. They're like celebrities. They go by the L family. They use the House of L name. They don't use the Kent name. And Superman, he's just like, now and again, like in our Superman, he's like truth and justice and humbleness, humble pie in the American way. This Superman, he's smiling at the camera, like he's hollering at the chicks, like he's talking to people and everything. They said that Lois said he does calendar shoots and like all this stuff. He's the complete opposite of, the Superman that we know. And that caused a rift in the family because there was a moment where he was smiling for the cameras. And while he was smiling for the cameras, there was somebody who was falling off of like a ledge, that was cleaning windows. And Jonathan saw it and he rushed in, he swooped in to save the day and to save that person. And then that's when everybody, the parents included, found out that Jonathan actually had superpowers. So on regular Earth, it's Jordan who has superpowers and Jonathan's the regular kid. But on Bizarro World, it's Jonathan that has the superpowers, and Jordan, he's still a little emo, but he doesn't have powers. So again, these are some of the differences. So then they find out that he has powers. Now, Jonathan already had a problem with Superman or Kal-El. He already had a problem with him because since he was a celebrity and since he was like the savior of the planet, and because he knew everything and everybody and everything, he resented the fact that his dad was never home. He never had time for him. He was always worried about the people. Even Lois, Lois was like the superhero, the glamour life aspect of superheroism. She didn't like that, again, with the flashy cars and the women and blah, blah, blah. But, Jonathan felt like, he was just like, oh, you weren't there for me because you chose the world over your own family. So then Superman decided to take him under his wing, and they fought crime together. He tried to train his son, teach his son how to be a superhero because his son had powers. And that kind of made things worse because the more he taught him how to be a superhero, the more Jonathan started feeling like, well, I don't need you and I can do whatever I want because I got powers now. And then he met this girl, and then the girl that he met, who was fine, by the way, the girl that he met, she's the one who introduced him to Allie. And then Superman and Jonathan had gotten into an argument because Jonathan had saved, two cars from colliding. And then he was like, oh, I told you not to do any superheroisms without me. And then he was just like, oh, you don't get to decide when you're my dad and when you're not my dad. And he was like, oh, I'm a superhero. It's my job. There was a lot of good acting in this episode, especially with the entire cast, because the cast has, I don't want to say that because Lois has been stellar, so, thus far, but the characters have been very one note, one dimensional and that's not a bad thing. That's definitely not a bad thing, but because they are who they are. Jonathan, he's the football jock. Jordan's the emo kid. Superman is Clark Kent. Superman is pretending to be Clark Kent, disguised identity. But here, they're allowed to let their emotional range show, especially Superman, because he was all like, you're my son, and you'll do what I say. And then, he's doing the big cheesy smiling and the yelling and everything. So he was very animated, and it was actually nice to see, Tom Hecklin, that's his name. It was nice to see him actually, get to, bust out those acting chops, and actually, especially when him and Lois got into that argument, I was like, Jesus. But anyway, so he got into an argument with his son, and his son dipped. The girl that he was dating, she's the one who introduced him to Allie and said that I have a friend who can help you become whole because I can see that you're struggling, with who you are on the inside. So on Bizarro World, instead of Lucy being the person who, being the family member who got sucked in by Allie, ended up being it ended up being Jonathan, which was worse because Jonathan actually has superpowers. So Allie got in his head, and then she tried to tell him, she was like, oh, just I need you to do my bidding and help me get back the pendants. Now, Superman, because again, like Bizarro Superman, because he was the celebrity and everything, he was feeling the stress of like losing his son to Allie Alston, and he started basically taking kryptonite drugs, and because he got into an argument with Lois, and Lois decided to leave him. Like, she took Jordan, and then like the two of them left, and then she was just like, oh, you gave up on this family, and he was just like, I'm a superhero woman, what you want me to do? And she was like, it's not the superheroism, I don't want you to stop saving people. But she was just like, oh, it's the glamour and the glitz and everything. And then she's like, plus you're on the kryptonite, because on our Earth, kryptonite is what kills Superman. Here it gives him, it's like a drug for him, like it gives him like superpowers, it gives him like enhanced superpowers. So it's actually the opposite. And then he was just like, fine, bitch. He was like, go on, take my son and leave. He's like, but you ain't got nothing without me. He's like, I pay for your meals. Like, I buy your clothes. Like, he was like, that was pretty funny. I mean, I'm just saying, like, that was funny. And then, so now this takes us, and then he like said, so Lois left, and then she left him, and then she went to go talk to her daddy, and then like both Jordan, Lois, and the grandfather, like the three of them were basically like hiding, from Jonathan and from Superman, while they try to come up with a plan to stop Allie. Meanwhile, Jonathan, he's with Allie, and he's doing her bidding and all this other stuff. And then Superman, like, he's still on the kryptonite juice, and he's feeling like the pain and the shame of like losing his entire family. So now on the Talro. And I find this particular funny because on Earth, on our Earth, on regular Earth, Talro, all he wanted was family, and he messed that up because he fought his brother, and because he got into a fight with his brother, he ended up in prison. But here, he actually got the family that he wanted, because on Bizarro World, Talro and Kal-El are the best of friends. They're the closest of brothers, and and that was nice to see. There was even a moment where, because we remember the line when Talro had met the Bizarro Superman, he was just like, oh, on my Earth, you and I were the closest of brothers. And then he was like, what stopped us from being brothers? And he was like, your wife. And I was the one that said his wife is either going to be Chrissy or it was going to be Lucy. I was wrong. His wife ended up being Lana. And I was just like, that was interesting. And it was interesting with Lana because on regular Earth, Lana, she's like, the heart of Smallville, and she's running for mayor, and she's doing all these wonderful things. But on Bizarro World, she works at a bar, and she's basically a nobody, which I find funny because a woman that worked at a bar was the woman who her husband cheated on her with. So now she's become the bar girl, which I thought was funny. But her and Talro, they fell in love. And after they fell in love, Lana got sucked in by Allie as well. She became like an Allie drone. And Allie, I guess, like used X-Kryptonite. And well, not X-Kryptonite. No, I think they used regular Kryptonite because X-Kryptonite, is the stuff that kills Superman. So regular Kryptonite was giving people superpowers. So I guess Allie used that to give Lana superpowers. And Lana and Talro, they were working for Allie as well. So then, there was even a moment where Talro actually tried to talk to Superman. He was just like, oh, brother. He was like, join the cause. And then, he was like, oh, stay away from Allie. She ruined my family. He was like, I can't do that. It's complicated. He's like, my wife believes in Allie. And he was like, fuck your wife. I'm your brother. And then he was like, get out. And then the two of them got beef, and he left. So, so now our Superman, and then they even showed the moment where, because he was taking the drugs, because he was taking the kryptonite drugs, the moment where it started affecting him, his skin started going pale, his eyes started like bugging out, and then that's when he went to Lois for the last time, and he apologized for destroying their family, and he promised that he was going to go to the other world, and he was going to stop Allie once and for all and bring his family back together. And that's how we saw when he flew through the mountain, and he ended up on, like on our Earth. No John Henry Irons and no Natalie. I say once again, where the black people at? So, so then like after they showed the scene, where Superman flies in, then it takes us to like our Superman, where it shows our Superman going through the vortex to try to stop Allie. And then, when he goes through the vortex, when our Superman ends up on the other side, he flies up into the sky, and then we find out that the Earth on Bizarro World is flat, and I thought that was hilarious. But then it also had a red sun, and the red sun, like it drains the power of Superman, but he still had enough cellular, like yellow sun energy to sustain him for a while. So he flies down to Earth. He sees a burnt corpse, which he thought was General Anderson. and he's going around town. He goes to the Fortress of Solitude, which isn't in the Arctic. It was actually like very sunny like in the Fortress of Solitude. And then he sees the hologram of his mother, and then his mother tried to warn him. She was like, oh, my son is dead, and Allie must be stopped because blah blah blah. And then that's when Jonathan showed up, and he took the key out of the machine. And then Superman, he sees like Bizarro Jonathan, and then he's just like, wow. He was like, like, you have superpowers and everything. And then he was just like, yeah. He was like, let me help you. They go back to the Smallville farm. And then that's when he asked him, he was like, what happened to my dad? And then he was like, your dad didn't make it. And then he was just like, well, my dad forgot what it was like to be a hero. He was too busy worried about the glamour of being a celebrity or whatever. And then the two of them like had like a little moment. And then Lois showed up. And then Lois was just like, oh, your father loved you. And then that's when he was just like, bitch, get out of here. I told you to run. And then that's when Jonathan had revealed that he was actually working for Allie, and then he beat up Superman looking for the pendants because he thought that Superman had both pendants. And then that's when the General came back in, and it showed the moment where Anderson went through the portal, and then he bumped into like his other self. Him and his other self tried to merge, but then Allie had Jonathan roast his other self because she thought that the Andersons were in cahoots and they were trying to take the power away from her. But then, but because our Anderson, because he's still hocked up on the kryptonite, because he's still taking the inhaler, like the XK inhaler, he had superpowers. He whooped Lana's ass. He beat up Jonathan, and then he ended up going to find Chrissy. He found like Bizarro Chrissy. Chrissy helped him find Lois. When he found Lois, Lois and the General took him in, and then he couldn't understand them because of the language barrier. But then when Superman and Jonathan were upstairs, Anderson went upstairs to go confront them after Lois had got knocked down, and then Anderson and Superman helped take out Jonathan, and then they beat up Jonathan and they tied him up. And then that's when Anderson apologized to Superman, because he's like, I thought you were the enemy, I thought the other Superman was the enemy, but he was like, it was Allie all along. And then he realized that the Kent family is actually the Superman family, and he was like, that's your family. Once I realized Anderson knew the family secret, I was just like, yeah, Anderson ain't gonna make it. Like, Anderson's not gonna make it. He got his ass beat. And then after that, then that's when Talro, Lana, and then both Allies showed up at the Kent farm, and they were just like, oh, give us the pendants. And then he was like, I'll be able to give you the pendants. And then, Superman, he ended up trying to fight everybody, him and Anderson. Anderson didn't make it in that regard. And then after that, it was left up to Clark to try to, take down like Allie and everything. But Allie ended up merging with her other self because Superman couldn't sustain the battle due to the red sunlight. The red sunlight like drained him to the point where he wasn't powerful enough. So then Allie ended up merging with her other self. She gave the pendant to Jonathan and told Jonathan to go through the portal and find his other self and find her followers and bring them back through the other side so they all can merge. And then Talro, he was fighting, like Superman. He had Superman in the chokehold. And then, he was just like, oh, help me save my family. He was like, my son is a good kid. I don't want to lose my son. And then after that, then Lana was just like, you'll never get away, Superman. And then that's when Talro, he was like, looking at you. He was like, I see what I've lost in my brother. And he was just like, I've disgraced the family L, and I've disgraced my brother. So he was like, I will allow you to put your family back together. And then Lana was like, no, don't do it. And then he let him go. And then Superman pushed through Lana, and then he went after Jonathan, and he went back through the portal. So now Allie is the all-powerful being. And that brings us to present day, where Bizarro Jonathan came through the portal, and then he approached Lois and Jordan on the porch. And then after that, they were just like, oh, why are you here? And then he was like, I came here for him. And then he pointed to their Jonathan. And then that's how the episode ended. So Superman is on his way through the portal because Talro let him go. The moment Jonathan tries to merge with his other self, that's when like our Superman's going to show up. I saw the coming attractions for the next episode, and the way the coming attractions look, it's almost like Bizarro Jonathan's not even there anymore. So my guess is when the episode starts, the answer to, like, I don't think Bizarro Jonathan's going to be around. Either they're going to kill him or he's going to run and go back through the portal. I don't, because the way the episode, because there was even a moment in the trailer where Clark and our Jonathan were just having a regular conversation. I'm like, why would y'all do that if evil Jonathan is like running the streets? So they're either going to kill him or they're going to beat his ass, and then he going to end up running back through the portal. So that's where we're at now. And I guess at this point, like Allie, like she's ready for the onslaught. Like she's ready to bring her followers in so that everybody can merge and become whole. There was no Lucy Lane in this, which I thought was weird, because if we're going to do an episode also like this with Bizarro World. It would have been nice to see who Lucy was on Bizarro World, but we didn't get that. But we did get to see, you know, who the Kent family was on the other world. We didn't get to see the Irons family, which I thought was weird, but it was still a good episode overall, and I definitely enjoyed it. And thank you for tuning in. That was a lot to unpack. Like, I still say, like, Superman and Lois is the best, you know, like, superhero TV series out right now. That's definitely not going to change. Like I said, Superman and Lois is killing it right now. I'm loving it with the direction and where everything's going. And I look forward to seeing what happens with the Bizarro storyline, because now that Allie is the big bad and she's the overall being of power, like I said, I want to see where that goes as far as like Lucy and everybody else, and you know, and everything in between. Like, what's going on with the Irons family? Like, again, where do black people at? Like, but share your thoughts, your questions, and your comments and concerns down below. Hit me up on Twitter and Instagram, always on YouTube, where we can share our thoughts. Like I said, are you okay with, did you like Bizarro World? Did you not like Bizarro World? Were there things in Bizarro World that you wish they would have shown us that we didn't get a chance to see? Are you happy with how things turned out? And like I said, share your thoughts down below and we will talk about it. So DC TV is back, y'all. So we got The Flash coming up on the channel. We got Naomi. You know, we always got that Young Justice. And for you Marvel fans, we got that Moon Knight, which wraps up in about 2 episodes. Subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already. Click that notification bell. Until next time, as we look into some more Bizarro action, watch out for your other self, take care, and about this, yeah!